Answer found. Answer found.
From secret algorithm updates to lawsuits.
Stick around. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine searching for something online, getting the answer right at the top of the page and never clicking a single link. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but based on what we're seeing, that's happening in a huge number of searches now. Landscape of online search is changing dramatically, and it seems like it's because AI is stepping in and providing answers directly.
Well, yeah, and what's fascinating here is how quickly Google is integrating this generative AI. They're doing it mostly through features like Search Generative Experience, SGE they call it, and AI Overview.
Right, so SGE.
Think of these as, AI summaries that pop up right at the very top of your search results page. They're basically designed to pull information from multiple websites and synthesize it into a direct answer. It fundamentally alters how you interact with search.
So the mission for this deep dive seems pretty clear. We've got a stack of articles, research notes here covering this big shift in Google search and the role of AI. Our goal is to try and cut through it all, figure out exactly what's going on, and understand what it really means for you. Whether you're just searching for info or maybe trying to get your own content seen online.
Let's dive into that core change then. Historically, Google has been, the world's most powerful search engine, right?
Right?
Its main job was indexing the web and pointing you using links to the most relevant websites that had the answers. But what the sources are showing us is it's rapidly evolving into more of an answer engine. It's trying to give you the information directly right there on that initial results page.
Exactly. And these AI overviews and SGE, they aren't just grabbing a snippet from one site. They're designed to synthesize information from multiple places to build that summary. And the data on the impact is pretty striking, actually. Recent studies are indicating that anywhere from 60% to maybe 60% of searches already don't result in a click on a traditional website link.
Yeah.
People are getting what they need right there.
And for the websites that traditionally relied on that traffic, the impact can be huge. Research suggests traffic drops for sites that are actually cited within those AI overviews can range anywhere from, say, 15% to a pretty staggering 64%.
64%.
Yeah. And this impact varies a lot depending on the industry and the specific type of search query. Informational content like how-to guides or explaining complex topics, that seems particularly vulnerable because the AI can often just provide that detailed answer directly.
Yeah. We saw a really stark example in one of the sources that at this health nonprofit. They reported a massive drop, 40,000 clicks for a single search term.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the wild part. They still ranked first in the traditional search results, and they were cited within the AI overview.
But users just got the info they needed from the AI summary.
Exactly. They didn't feel the need to visit the site, even though it was the source. That really drives home the point, doesn't it?
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason is just the sheer amount of screen real estate these AI overviews take up. They can push the traditional organic results way down the page. We're talking potentially 1/500 pixels.
Wow.
Which is like 2 or 3 full screen scrolls on desktop or mobile.
Yeah.
So even if you rank well, your link is just much less visible now.
Okay. So if that wasn't enough change with AI overviews coming in, the sources also point to a period of really significant ranking volatility in Google's search results, specifically throughout May 2025.
Right.
Even without a formally announced core update, which is usually when Google says they're making big changes, SEO experts were noting major swings in rankings, particularly around the 9th, 16th, and 21st of May.
Yeah, this wasn't framed as some brand new system being rolled out. It looked much more like deeper tuning of existing core systems.
Yeah,
primarily the helpful content system and spam brain.
Okay,
The main takeaway is that Google seemed to be doubling down on what kind of content it wants to rank highly, especially as AI plays a bigger and bigger role.
so what did this tuning focus on then? The sources seem to highlight a few key areas. First, content quality. Seemed to be pretty aggressively demoting sites with thin content, or content that just felt like AI-written filler without offering real value to a human reader.
Right?
The emphasis was firmly on what they call people-first content. You know, stuff with original insights, genuine first-hand experience, or real expert commentary. Google even reported something like a 40% reduction in these low-value pages being shown.
And spam reduction was definitely another major focus. The spam brain system seemed more aggressive. It was targeting tactics like scraping content from other sites or spinning text to make it look unique when it's really not,
Oh, okay.
or creating fake EEAT signals.
Right. EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness.
Exactly. Google's message here is pretty clear.
Hmm.
Your content needs to be real, original, and reliable. And that requires genuine human oversight, even if you're using AI tools somewhere in the creation process.
Got it. And there was also that really notable shift around linked evaluation you mentioned?
Some websites saw their reported backlinks in Google Search Console just plummet, like 30-60% drops. This wasn't always a penalty per se. In many cases, it seemed like Google was simply choosing to ignore links that it now considered poor quality. One webmaster was quoted saying something like, "Over 1,000 good links vanished overnight," which just gives you a sense of the scale.
Yeah.
It really signals that Google is getting much, much smarter about which links truly contribute to a site's authority.
And you said this wasn't just the main web results.
No. While the biggest shakeups were definitely there were even subtle changes reported in local SEO stuff, affecting the map pack and local rankings. It suggests these quality signals are being applied more broadly across different kinds of search results.
The stories from webmasters and SEO forums cited in the sources sound pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.
People reporting these extreme traffic swings, 6% down one day, then maybe 90% up for a different site just days later.
It's wild.
One forum post apparently described it as a roller coaster ride. And some site owners were so hit by the trafficking losses, they were actually thinking about shutting down their businesses.
And the data backs it up. The SEO tools everyone uses, SEMrush, RankRanger, Mozcast, Systrix, they all confirm this widespread ranking flux. Index volatility metrics were flashing red. Mozcast's temperature was way up. It indicated significant sustained movement that looked more like a sort of wave-based rollout affecting different sites over time rather than just one instant change.
Okay, so we see the shift happening towards AI answers. We see Google tuning its algorithms, prioritizing certain content. But the big question that keeps coming up in the sources is why? Why is Google doing all this right now?
Well, the why seems to be partly a reaction to how users are behaving, how we are behaving.
Okay,
Google knows that users are increasingly turning to conversational AI tools. Like ChatGPT for summarized answers.
yeah.
It's not just a tech trend, it's a shift in how people look for information. Google's basically responding to that to stay relevant, especially with competition heating up.
An AI mode within Google Search that's explicitly offering that kind of ChatGPT-like conversational experience, isn't it?
Exactly. In some cases, it completely replaces the traditional list of blue links with just a chat interface.
Wow.
And what's really important for, content creators and businesses to understand is how that AI mode sources its information. It leans heavily on Google's knowledge graph, that huge database of real-world entities and facts, and also on what they call real-world sentiment.
Real-world sentiment like what?
Things like online reviews, mentions in the press, social signals. It makes
means that just having a website isn't really enough anymore. Your entire online footprint, your reputation, your mentions needs to be comprehensive, current, and well managed.
Ah, I see.
Because if you don't manage it, you risk being left out of these AI summaries, or even worse, having inaccurate or incomplete stuff presented about you.
Okay, this raises a really crucial concern that was highlighted quite a bit in the sources. If AI overviews in AI mode significantly cut down traffic to websites, and traffic is the main way many content businesses, especially publishers, make money through advertising, will there still be enough incentive for creators to produce that in-depth, high-quality content?
That's the million-dollar question.
If each article, each video generates less traffic, does it just have less value?
It's a fundamental risk to the traditional ad-supported internet model. Absolutely. Model relies heavily on page views, on eyeballs hitting the site to generate revenue. Now, this shift might lead to the decline of what some sources called thousands of low-quality websites built just for ads.
Right, the clickbait farms, maybe.
Perhaps, but it could also significantly impact many legitimate media companies and creators who produce really valuable stuff. It's a serious challenge.
Some sources even started talking about this concept of a machine web,
Yeah,
where AI becomes the primary audience consuming content. And, well, it's really unclear how human creators actually get paid in that scenario.
licensing deals are one possibility that's being discussed. We've seen examples like the New York Times licensing content to Amazon for AI or Google paying Reddit for access to its data.
Okay,
But the sources also point out these deals often only involve the biggest players. What about the huge ecosystem of smaller publishers, independent journalists, bloggers, niche experts who make up the bulk of the open web? Do these licensing models really work for them? It's not clear.
one critic cited in the sources voiced a pretty strong concern, suggesting this whole shift could actually destroy the open web as we know it.
That's a strong statement.
Yeah, they use this analogy. It's like asking a librarian for a book, but instead of letting you browse the library, they just read you a summary of the book. The worry is that information sources could become far less diverse if everything gets filtered through a single AI summary layer.
Google, of course, pushes back on that narrative pretty hard.
I bet.
They argue they still prioritize sending clicks to websites. They say AI actually enhances search by letting users ask more complex questions, and that this can create new opportunities for content discovery. Google basically contends that predictions of the web's destruction are based on skewed data or flawed analysis, and they say the amount of content on the web is actually thriving and growing.
But here's a paradox that really stands out in the sources. Google uses publishers' content to power these AI answers that then reduce traffic to those same publishers. And there were reports about internal documents suggesting Google silently updated its rules,
Oh,
implying that just by being in Google search, you grant permission for your content to be used for AI training and answers unless you totally opt out of search results, which, let's be honest, isn't really a viable option for most websites.
right? That's a tough spot.
Some critics went so far as calling that approach the definition of theft. Strong words.
Very strong. And compounding all these changes is a very real shift in user behavior that goes beyond just Google search itself. One survey found nearly 72% of Americans sometimes use AI tools like ChatGPT instead of traditional search engines.
Wow, 72%.
And according to an Apple executive cited in one source, Google searches within Safari on Apple devices reportedly fell for the first time in 22 years, possibly due to chatbot usage. Now, Google disputes that overall query volume is declining, but it's a notable claim.
Interesting.
Plus, you see younger generations increasingly turning to platforms like TikTok or Instagram for discovery, especially for things like finding a new restaurant or an activity. They often bypass traditional search entirely for certain needs.
So, okay, alongside these huge technological shifts and user behavior changes, there's this other major force at play. Google is also facing significant legal challenges. Just recently, a U.S. district judge ruled that Google illegally maintains a monopoly over internet search.
Yeah, that ruling by Judge Amit Mehta is a really big deal.
It sounds like it.
It found that Google is in fact a monopolist, citing its massive market share, something like 89.2% overall and a staggering 94.9% on mobile devices. And the judge concluded that Google used this dominance not just to be popular, but specifically to squash competition and stifle innovation. Primarily through the billions with a B, it spends every year on those default search agreements.
Right, the payments to Apple and others.
Exactly. Like an estimated $20 billion paid just to Apple in 2022 to be the default search engine on Safari.
Google obviously plans to appeal this decision, right? They argue their popularity comes purely from having the best search engine, not from any anti-competitive stuff.
Of course they're appealing, and what happens next regarding remedies is still being figured out. It'll likely involve a very long, drawn-out appeals process that could take years.
Years, okay.
But potential remedies being talked about include things like requiring choice screens, making it easy for you to pick a different search engine when you set up a device, or banning those multi-billion-dollar default payment deals altogether. Some research cited suggests that remedies which actually expose users to alternatives, maybe even through a temporary forced default followed by a choice screen, could significantly cut into Google's market share without harming consumers.
It's worth noting, too, as one source pointed out, this isn't just a Google story in some ways.
How so?
Well, other huge platforms like Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter, are also increasingly keeping users within their own apps, centralizing attention and decreasing the amount of referral traffic they send out to publishers and the open web. It seems like a broader trend towards these closed platform ecosystems.
That's a fair point. While antitrust action could theoretically loosen Google's grip on search and maybe create space for smaller competitors, the appeals process is long. And even many of Google's smaller competitors are integrating AI into their own search tools now. Some people look to truly decentralized services like the Fediverse as maybe a hopeful sign for potential healing for the open web, but right now, those are pretty small scale compared to the giants.
Okay, so if the internet landscape is shifting this dramatically, AI, user behavior, antitrust challenges, what should businesses, content creators, anyone trying to get found online actually do about it? How do you navigate this? How do you adapt?
Right? That's the crucial question. The sources offer several adaptation strategies, and they really circle around a few core ideas. First and foremost is a pretty radical focus on your content strategy.
Okay.
This means creating that people-first content. We talked about stuff that genuinely offers original insight, first-hand experience, or deep expertise. You need to try and inject novelty into the knowledge graph.
Inject novelty? How?
Think original research, unique case studies, genuinely new perspectives, not just rehashing what's already out there a million times. You also need to understand and answer the full audience journey, from their initial questions all the way through to maybe post-purchase support needs.
Right.
Shift towards entity-based SEO. Focus on becoming the authority on topics and concepts, not just chasing individual keywords. And crucially, dominate your niche. Don't just dabble superficially. Go deep.
That sounds like it requires a lot more effort and deeper thinking than maybe some SEO tactics of the past.
It absolutely does, which kind of leads to the next strategy.
Content volume and modality,
Modality.
meaning you might need to publish more content than you used to. Articles, guides, FAQs, maybe video transcripts, podcast notes, and make sure it's available across multiple formats: text, video, audio, imagery. The goal is basically to be everywhere AI looks when it's trying to understand and summarize information related to your area.
And keeping all that content up to date seems viable too.
Oh, absolutely critical. Content freshness is key. Outdated information kills credibility instantly and really reduces your chances of being cited accurately or at all by AI. You need a plan to stay current and update content regularly.
What about the technical side of the website? Does that still matter just as much with AI involved?
Very much so. Technical optimization is still crucial. You need to structure your content in ways that make it easy for both AI and traditional search engines to understand. Things like using a Q&A format within an article can help feed potential AI answers. Implementing structured data, also known as schema markup.
Schema, right? The code that explains what the content is.
Exactly. It helps search engines understand the type of information on your page, like recipes, products, FAQs, events. You also absolutely need to optimize for core web vitals.
Those speed and usability metrics.
Yeah, largest contentful paint, LCP, first input delay, FID, cumulative layout shift, CLS. Basically, how fast and user-friendly your site feels. A fast, stable site is good for users, and search engines prioritize it. And, of course, make sure your website is fully crawlable by AI systems. Pay attention to technical details, like how you handle JavaScript rendering, and check your robot's TXT file isn't blocking important things.
And it really sounds like your overall online reputation and authority are more important than ever if you want to be trusted by AI systems.
Exactly right. Managing your reputation and authority across your entire online footprint is basically non-negotiable now. Clean up and maintain professional profiles, LinkedIn, YouTube, other relevant platforms. Actively ask for reviews. Positive sentiment, positive buzz can actually train AI models to perceive you or your brand as trustworthy and recommend you.
Interesting.
That EET framework we mentioned, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness, it's even more critical now for establishing yourself as a reliable source, both for humans and for machines.
Is there a specific way to write content so that AI is more likely to pick it up and use it in summaries?
The sources give some good tips on writing for AI and natural language processing, or NLP generally. Write in a natural, conversational style. Use those long-tail keywords, the longer, more specific phrases people actually type or ask. Focus on semantic SEO, which means covering related concepts comprehensively around your topic. Optimize for voice search by answering common questions concisely and directly. And when you're writing specifically hoping to get picked up by generative AI for summaries, focus on including specific details, using quotes, backing things up with stats, clearly citing your sources where you can, being authoritative in your tone, and writing for fluency, just making it really easy to understand and extract key points. Honestly, these principles just make content better for human readers too.
But AI can't just replace human writers and experts entirely, right? There has to be a human element.
Oh, absolutely not. Human oversight is essential. AI is a powerful tool, no doubt, for brainstorming, editing, finding keyword ideas, suggesting multimedia, but it currently lacks cultural nuance, genuine empathy, a deep understanding of mission-driven language. Now, the difference between certain phrasing choices that matter a lot to specific communities, AI might miss that.
Good point.
Human review is absolutely critical to ensure content aligns with your values, is factually accurate, and truly resonates with a human audience.
And thinking even further ahead, some sources mention preparing for actual AI transactions. What's that about?
Yeah, anticipating that bots, working on behalf of users, might eventually execute tasks directly on your website. Things like booking demos, filling out forms, maybe even making purchases. Your site needs to be technically ready to handle that kind of machine-to-machine interaction smoothly.
Okay. Beyond just optimizing for Google, the sources also really heavily emphasize building alternative channels, ones you control more directly.
Yes, absolutely critical. Building an email list is paramount. It's a direct line of communication to your audience that no algorithm change can take away.
Yeah,
But you need a compelling reason for people to sign up a good lead magnet.
right.
Starting a YouTube channel is another really strong strategy. YouTube is a massive search engine in itself, and it offers a totally different way to connect with users through video.
Yeah.
These channels are all about building direct audience relationships that are more resilient to the ups and downs of search algorithms.
Ultimately, one source suggested aiming to build a business or platform so inherently valuable and interesting that it doesn't rely on search trafficking to survive. That seems like a really high bar, though.
It is an incredibly difficult goal, especially for smaller players, no question. But the aim should be creating value that transcends any single platform or traffic source.
And throughout all of this change and adaptation, constantly monitoring your own site's performance with analytics tools seems more important than ever.
Absolutely. You need to understand exactly how these shifts are impacting you and whether your adaptation strategies are actually working. Keeping a close eye on your data is the only way to intelligently navigate this pretty turbulent time.
So let's try and bring this all together then. The core tension we've really unpacked here is that AI-driven search is fundamentally changing how information is found and consumed online. We're moving away from traditional links towards these AI-generated answers.
Mm-hmm.
This shift is having a significant impact on traditional web traffic and the business models built on it, creating real challenges for content creators and publishers. And all of this is happening while Google simultaneously faces major antitrust scrutiny over its dominance in the search market.
Right?
Adapting requires this multi-pronged strategy, focusing intensely on creating authoritative, high-quality content for both humans and AI, optimizing your site technically, actively building direct audience connections off-platform, and managing your overall online reputation.
And it's crucial to remember, this isn't just a technological update. It's reflecting and driving a fundamental shift in user behavior and how value is perceived and delivered online. Navigating it successfully means understanding these new rules of visibility and focusing relentlessly on creating that value where users are now looking and maybe anticipating where they might look in the future.
Which leaves us with this final thought for you to consider. As AI becomes a primary filter and summarizer for the world's information, what responsibility do the platforms powering these systems have? Responsibility to ensure the content they rely on is diverse, accurate, and that the original creators are somehow fairly compensated. And maybe on a more personal level, how will you ensure you're seeking out information that AI might not prioritize or perhaps wouldn't even find in its current summarized form? Something to think about.